celebrate. They have done it.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris back with my rant stroke thought of the day on my walk of the day, as you can see from the background here. And why am I out for a walk for the day? Well, I'll tell you why I go out for walks. It's good for my mental health. If you didn't know already, it's Mental Health Awareness Week, and I thought I'd come on and do a quick video about this. It's not really a subject that we talk about a lot on the channel. Maybe we should do a little bit more. It's certainly a topic that's very important, and I think a lot of us have mental health issues and struggles every day, and it's all about how to deal with it. But if you haven't seen already, the Premier League are doing a lot of focus on this. You've seen players already. Tino rang Lewis Hall obviously and spoke to him. Talked about checking in with people and making sure they're okay and everything else as well. But the video that kind of prompted me to come on and give my thought of the day was a great video from Dan Burn and Alan Shearer sitting down, and Dan Burn really opened up very honestly, very openly about his battles with mental health as well, and it was incredibly brave by Dan Burn, who actually is from Blythe, which isn't too far from where I'm standing right now. But I just thought I'd come on and talk about it because I thought it was a brilliant video, and what it did as well, if I'm brutally honest with you, and I'm very honest about myself as well, perfection is impossible for anybody to achieve. Anyone who thinks they're perfect is living in cloud cuckoo land, as Roy Keane would say. I'm definitely not perfect, and at times I'm fallible and I make mistakes, and certainly as a football fan, I think in the heat of moments of games, your reaction, your instant reaction, can be quite visceral at times, and it may be a little bit misguided, maybe a little bit needlessly aggressive towards players. It's never personal. It's never personal for me. I don't think it's ever personal for any football fan, really. It's in that moment that you're annoyed. Someone's either misplaced a pass or hasn't tracked a man that maybe cost you the points, and because football is such a religion, really, it kind of gets under your skin, and it sometimes makes you lose your shit for a little bit temporarily, and certainly as a content creator as well, you jump straight behind the microphone after a game, and your emotions are raw, and sometimes you say things that you don't really mean to say, and that's why we started doing the aftermath show, because it gives you time to calmly think about things, breathe, and look at things at a different angle. But what does this mean for what Dan Burn was talking about? I mean, talking about the thing in general, Dan Burn was talking about how great Fulham were with him with his mental health struggles at 21 years old, and I didn't know anything like that about Dan Burn. I know Sean Longstaff's opened up about his mental health struggles, and very openly, and Matt Ritchie helped him and everything as well. But when Dan was talking about coming off social media, it really hit me, to be honest with you. It kind of held up a little bit of a mirror to all of us as football fans, certainly me. I've been quite scathing and quite critical of Dan Burn in the past, and when he said that comment of, he went home and he was searching his name to see what people were saying about him, and it doesn't matter how many nice things people said, it was that one thing somebody said, that one bad negative thing that really triggered him. And I really hope that wasn't me, and if it was, I want to apologise to Dan Burn and any of the players really that have maybe been upset by anything I've said or in the heat of the moment. And I think as football fans, it's really easy to dehumanise these players. They're on copious amounts of money that we'll never see in our lifetime. They're honed athletes. They seem like they're completely disconnected to the same world that we live in. But you got to remember they're human beings as well, and I forget that sometimes. I think everyone forgets that sometimes in the heat of the moment. And you can be critical, you can be, visceral, you can be, I suppose, unnecessarily aggressive towards a player and criticise them for the speed or their ability on the ball or whatever. And they're trying the best that they can do with the ability that they've got in that moment, and sometimes it isn't just good enough. And I think if you step back from football and you thought about things more rationally as a human being, you wouldn't react that way. But football has that way of making you lose your shit. It's not an excuse, but it's an explanation as to why you behave the way you do. But certainly when I heard Dan Burn say that, it was a bit of a leveler for me, really. It was kind of like holding a mirror up, and I'm certainly going to try and be a little bit better, I think, with my kind of critique of the players or comments on the players, whether it be on the Evermore platform or just in general on social media. I've taken a step back from social media as well, just like Dan Burn has had, because as content creators as well, you get a lot of abuse from people, and quite often it's completely unnecessary, uncalled for. People offering you out for fights in the street and stuff like that, and they never do it in real life, but they think because they hide behind the anonymity of a keyboard and a little logo, probably of Mbappe or Ronaldo or some shit like that, they think they can say whatever they want to people. And, the social media platforms in general have become so toxic and unregulated and rank over the years that some of the stuff people say to people on there is so beyond the line, you can't even see it. It's a dot in the distance. And, it is quite a scary world just for general normal people or content creators who've got decent platforms. I'm not saying that we're one of them, but, you can massively be affected by it. And it is, to hear the players come out and say that so openly and honestly, for me was a real eye opener, and a massive credit to Dan Burn for doing that. And again, a lot of the other players that have been open for criticism as well, over the years, and the likes of Longstaff and Wilson and Trippier and Shearer and the rest of them, that they probably wouldn't open up as openly and honestly and say that as well. But they wouldn't do that. I'm just letting this lovely horse pass here, as you can see in the background. You'll see that in a second there. Off for a little walk. Say hello to all the subscribers there. But yeah, so it was really refreshing, I think, to hear Dan Burn say it, but sad as well, tinged with sadness. I think that that the players do feel that, and Dan Burn's, a 30-odd-year-old guy. He's played at every level of football that there is. And you kind of think he would be, I suppose, thick-skinned enough to deal with it. But again, that's not the humanising factor of the players, isn't it? But yeah, certainly for me, it's going to make me really think about how I react in the moment to performances and games and things like that. I'm trying to be a bit better. I've had a few comments in the chat. I don't mind, the constructive criticism comments, people asking me why you're being so hard on him. Maybe you should, just chill out a little bit, take a breath. And, I've taken some of them on stock, in stock really, and try to be a little bit better, with my kind of post-match reactions to the performances of the players. But it is so easy to slip away and just lose your head a little bit with football. But I'm certainly trying to be a lot better. And I think a lot of content creators are as well. There's not many of them who go out there and slag players off. There is some for clickbait and rage bait and things like that as well. But this was a real refresher as to how much these players feel this, how much it does get to them behind the scenes. And you think about young players, the likes of, Lewis Miley, Lewis Hall, Tino Livramento, that they'll be on social media way more than Dan Burn, Wilson or Longstaff would be. And, for those players, it could be really dangerous, could really damage them, their mentality and stuff like that as well, if people just give them abuse. But yeah, in the week of Mental Health Awareness Week, I thought it was really refreshing to hear from Dan. And like I said, I want to apologise for any offence any of my posts may have caused any of the players over the years, and I certainly will aim to do better. I'm sure we all will as well after watching that. But let us know in the comments below, guys, what you thought about the Dan Burn interview. What do you do to clear your dark days as well, your mental health? I go for walks, I go to the gym, and I just try and tune out. Even though I'm a very sociable person, I just get my headphones on, as you can see around my neck there, and try and tune out from the world a little bit and just level myself back out. But I'd love to hear what you guys do to kind of pull yourself back from the edge. And obviously, if you are struggling right now, there's plenty of people you can reach out and talk to. Mark, I'll put a few links in below there in the comments as well. And if you haven't checked in with a mate or a family member for a while, just pick up the phone, drop them a text, give them a ring. Go for a walk with them, go for a coffee, go for a pint, or just chat to them and just let them know that you're still there and you still care. And, if they are struggling and things are getting tough, that somebody's willing to listen, someone's willing to help them over the line, because it is a tough world out there, guys. It really, really is. Whether it's football, whether it's life, my non-football podcasting job is very stressful and difficult and thankless at times, and I've got a real good close circle of colleagues and professional friends who have become personal friends over the years that help me through the struggles that I have in that. And then more importantly, I've got a brilliant family around me, and I really do lean on them and have the support from them, which is incredible. But some people aren't fortunate enough to have all of that, and if you're one of the only numbers in their phone, just reach out, drop them a line, make sure they're all right. It's good to talk, everyone. Don't keep it in. Open up, as Dan Burn says. It's not a weakness, it's a strength, reaching out and talking to somebody. But I thought it was a brilliant video from Dan Burn, very honest. Shearer as well, and I think definitely it's going to teach a few of us to maybe think, before we post or before we jump behind a microphone. Certainly it will do for me. But thanks for watching, guys. I hope you're well wherever you are. I hope everything's good, and if not, reach out and talk to somebody about what's not good and see if you can try and get past that and turn some light on in the dark room. But thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, have a belter. See you later.
Heroes celebrate. They have done it.